Alrighty, guys. I see we are now alive. We're doing another House of the Dragon recap episode with special guest Brandon Elrich. How are you guys today?
I'm doing well. I brought my three dragons to protect me in case you guys come after me for any opinions that I might have. So
Are the dragons from any particular universe, or where are these? Where do these
not
dragons
really.
hail from?
This
Okay.
is just one holding a I don't know, a jewel or an egg or something, and this one's just a pretty dragon on a mountain, and this is a 3D printed dragon that I bought at
Oh, pretty cool.
a Pride Fest like last year, I think. So
I'm currently not live in my house right now, but if I were, I would pull out some dragon props that very, very similar to those, really. They're not from any particular universe. They were toys of
yeah.
mine from when I was a kid. And I would definitely say, as a 30-year-old man now, I appreciate them more than I did throughout my teens.
Right.
Well, I didn't get these till I was an adult. I didn't have dragons as a kid.
But isn't it so funny though? Like when I was growing up, like I loved the normal stuff like Action Man, Power Rangers, Biker Mice from Mars, just whatever kids watched, you know? And then when I was a teenager, early 20s, I didn't care about anything. And now like late 20s, early 30s into late 30s now, I like have such an appreciation for like all these different things. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a real period in I think it started in like seventh grade, eighth grade, where I just felt like I couldn't enjoy Disney movies, Pixar movies, like I was too old for that shit. And yeah, once you get to adulthood, you just start to realize that it's childish to feel like certain things are childish.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who cares?
Right.
Well, and also because we're all writers, and it's kind of like I think we can see the, you know, the goodness, the craft in it as well. You know, it's like to write a children's book. You know, it's just as much as an achievement as it is to write an adult book. You know what I mean? It's still writing. I think I feel the same about like maybe cartoons now or Disney, like you say, Pixar and comic book movies, Christopher Nolan movies. I kind of look at them all the same way now.
Now, before we get into House of the Dragon, I'm curious to ask if you guys are fans of the Avatar universe at all. That's been one of my tangents this week, watching the Netflix live action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I've never seen it.
No? Okay.
Is it good?
It's the reason I thought of it just now is because uh, it's a funny one to watch as a writer because I appreciate so much of what they're going for, but there are so many lines where I've been unable to hear it and just be like, I would have written that so differently. Like it's
Yeah.
quite evidently a Netflix show. Like it, they've got a lot. It's got a lot going for it, and I've got plenty of good to say about it. But it
Do
kind of
you think
falls into that category of live actions that don't necessarily need to exist.
this is going to be so like disrespectful, but it's popped into my head. Do you think like the writers for generic Netflix, slop movies, do you even think they consider themselves writers anymore? Because most of it is them looking at notes of what to put into the script, to the point where their original script, is probably gone by the time the movie comes.
I want to say that probably, but yes, for a lot of them, it's probably so completely soulless that they couldn't care less.
Right. Yeah, I think if you get paid well and everything, you can say, yeah, this is the industry, but like, yeah, they're writers when they put their first like 5 or 6, 7 drafts in. But then, I could never imagine like writing an article or even a short novella, and by the time it comes out, it's like 70% other people's suggestions as to like why you can't say this or you have to say this, you have to put this in, you have to explain why this is happening in case somebody puts down the book to look at their phone and they forget the last 10 pages. Like I'd be like, wow, that's insane.
But isn't that kind of like if you publish with a traditional publisher or whatever, he goes through editing or whatever, and they suggest all these edits for your book? Wouldn't that be similar?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's similar, like getting edits, for say clarity as in story structure. Like if it like really needs, it's like, hey, your guy is in Mumbai now, but like when he last spoke, he was in Calcutta. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like the transition for that, and that's like a genuine fuck up that you could do. It's a big one. It's a bad example, but you know what I mean? But like saying like you to tell your readers exactly why your main character is crying right now. You know what I mean? Like you have to tell them exactly why. And I kind of feel like that's what's happened with a lot of Netflix movies. You know?
Yes, that's actually been extremely in my face with this Avatar one. It's kind of funny that with the original kids show that it's actually so much more subtle in a lot of ways. Like in a lot of moments with this live action one that does kind of get into more R-rated material and depict a few graphic things, but at the same time, while it kind of positions itself as being more adult, it's also much more infantilizing in that way. Um, Like
So
they
did you
just
see the
tell
movie?
you exactly what to feel, and there's no subtlety to it, really.
Did you see the movie that came out a few years ago?
The live action Avatar with M.
Yeah,
Night Shyamalan. Yeah,
yeah.
it's one of the most notoriously reviled movies of all time. But even that one, I watched and found some positive things to say about. Yes, it's a
I thought it
garbage
was kind of
fire.
cool.
Yes, it's yeah, it's I I like some of the visuals. I thought the end scene wasn't horrifically botched, but yeah, most of it didn't recapture the heart of that children's series. It's also I kind
I
of feel
did.
like one of those shows that is just inherently meant to be animated. Just the bending of elements.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there will be a live action that gets it right, but even in Netflix with its high budget for the special effects, it's something about it doesn't quite capture it.
I didn't know anything about the cartoon or anything. I didn't watch any of that and don't know much about the original story. The first introduction I had to it was the movie, M. Night Shyamalan, but I haven't seen any of the Netflix series.
There are also dragons in it, so it's not completely unrelated to our general topic of the day.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, that was
Segue.
that was a real anomaly on Nickelodeon, and yeah, to end that topic, I'm just very thankful that it was something that me and my peers grew up with, and it was just that it aired next to SpongeBob, Jimmy Neutron, and Fairly Odd Parents. It really was an incredible aberration. But House of the Dragon.
Are you ready?
You said, "Am I ready?"
Are you ready? You plural, both of you.
I'm ready.
I'm going to start with our guests. Okay.
Oh boy. Oh no. Me without my notes.
Brandon Elrich. Okay. So tell us, when did you first get into Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon?
I didn't get into Game of Thrones until last year. I
Okay. Oh,
I didn't I didn't have HBO or Max, whatever, But I
Max
finally
again.
I don't know. I kept hear what?
It's now HBO Max again now.
Oh, is it? Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, HBO Max, whatever. But I heard all about it and I didn't think it was for me. I was like, it didn't seem like something I would get into, really. It didn't seem like my type of show. But I don't know. Everybody kept talking about it and everything, and I I heard there were a lot of hot guys in it, so I was like, well, I could at least watch for that. And so
which
last year I
one?
started watching it. Huh.
Which ones? Which ones? I'm curious, genuine. Which guys in the show?
Oh,
Say,
John.
House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones.
Jon Snow is one, definitely. Yeah.
Rob Stark.
And what Baratheon, the gay king,
Renly.
Renly. I'm really bad at names, so I'm gonna be messing up a lot of names probably today, or I'm gonna have to describe who they are. But I'm just really bad at names overall. But oh, I probably cut out a little bit there. Oh yeah, so him. Let's see, who else in
You a Tyrion kind of guy?
Not so much. Not so much. I mean,
he's a dwarf. You have a problem with
Charles
dwarves?
Drogo, Jason Momoa. Hey, bro, I'm a call in this movie, bro.
You know, I'm not really a huge fan of his as far as physics. I think he's funny and everything, and some of the stuff he does, but as far as attractiveness, no, he wasn't on the top of my list.
My favorite Jason Momoa character line is that famous line in Aquaman when he says, "Hey, bro, I'm Aquaman." You know, there's another one he's in, where he's like a biker and he says, "I'm a biker, bro." He's a fantastic actor, really fantastic range. I want to play me when there's ever a movie made about me. I'm Peter, bro.
Makes me think of is it John Bernenthal? I'm forgetting how to pronounce his last name, but every movie he's in, he has the line, "Hey, let me tell you something. Now let me tell you about something."
I'm not familiar with him.
He's
in Walking Dead and Punisher.
Oh, yeah.
And left a mark in that first season of Walking Dead. I don't know a lot else that he has been in, to be honest. But
he was in Fury, that tank movie with Brad Pitt.
Who's good in that? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he says, "Let me tell you something about war and tanks" in that movie.
No,
yeah. But yeah, okay. So Brandon, what have you thought about this season of House of the Dragon so far, and what did you think about the latest episode 4?
So I've enjoyed House of the Dragon. To me, it had pretty much the same vibe as Game of Thrones. I had heard before that, well, some people's opinion was it wasn't. If you like Game of Thrones, it didn't follow the same kind of, I don't know, it didn't have the same vibe as Game of Thrones. But when I started watching it, I thought it went along well with it.
I feel like diet Game of Thrones.
You what?
It feels like diet Game of Thrones, or at least diet early Game of Thrones.
And A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is Game of Thrones 0.
Yeah, very fast. They're pretty fast and loose. House of the Dragon feels very much like Game of Thrones season 6, 7, 8.
Oh
so
yeah,
we're doing.
I liked the backstory. I mean, I like seeing Rhaenyra and kind of seeing like the origins, not necessarily the origins, but at least close to, of the Targaryen line, and kind of the comparison, like with the uncle niece, and then kind of switching in Game of Thrones, the aunt nephew kind of thing. I thought that was interesting, but this latest episode, I didn't really feel like a whole lot happened. I mean, there were not real big significant, like blow your mind kind of things, like or like a cliffhanger or anything like that. I don't know. It's just.
I feel like House of the Dragon is in a kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, where if it's crazy bombastic every episode, that would feel like an error of pacing. And whenever it lulls, people are so used to the heights of the show that they're like, oh, one of the dragons gonna do some shit again.
Yeah, that's true. I guess they kind of set themselves up for that. But yeah.
I didn't mind the this recent episode, but for the first 20 minutes or so, I really felt like they were about to set up some big conflict that was going to take place in the second half of the episode. And then as minutes ticked by and it was 40 minutes in, I'm like, all right, they're not going to do that this week.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought they were gonna go to that what is that town called with starts with a B. Now I can't remember. Oh, it was maybe it was a T. Tumbleton?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, I thought they were gonna have a battle there, but you know, I think what they set up was more subtle, like with the young prince kind of psychologically manipulating him into becoming what they want.
I said this last week, but it's amazing to me that they can introduce characters this late in the game who've kind of been in the background at least for throughout the show and have them just be so good and well realized. Like this Ormond character, and I mean Ormond, I don't think we saw at all until this season. But Darren is really turning into a great character. He hasn't spoken a lot, but the few lines that he's had, yeah, it's very excited to see where that plot between Ormond and Darren goes.
What did you
Yeah,
think, Peter?
Yeah, I said to Ben last week that I love everything about the show, the costumes, the actors, the director, like they shoot on set, like on location. The sets are amazing. So everything about the show is like A plus, but the problem with anything to do with like Westeros, even like with the books, anything that goes into like B or C plus category, um, it's a huge step down just because everything that's gone before it has been so fantastic. But like my biggest thing, and we don't do spoilers here, is like they're moving a huge set piece that happens in the book much later. And as a result, they're putting other stuff before it that doesn't make sense. But I spoke about that in the last video. But like what Ben said about like they're damned if they do, damned if they don't with the drama and action. I kind of see it in a different way where the episode had lots of drama with like Hugh and his wife and Ormond and Daeron, the young prince, and it did have action because he broke the arm. There was like an assault scene. There was the dragons talking to each other. So that is a type of action. And it is dramatic and it was really good. Like every episode this season, I've been watching on TV and every time I'm like, oh, I'm 3 minutes into the show. And then like I pause it and I'm 35 minutes in. I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's like this is going by way too quickly. So that's a really good sign. But the problem is that there's not enough little payoffs for the amount of characters that they have in the show. Okay. So it's like they have like so many, like where did I see it here? Look, there's room for a payoff. So like they spent 99% of like last week's show with Rhaenyra, which was great. I loved it. But they could have easily moved the Harrenhal part with Sir Criston Cole going to find the other prince with the big dragon in the big castle with the witch woman. They could have moved that part to last week because it's only like a 2-minute scene. They could have moved Aegon's thing with Sunfire, the broken dragon, into the previous one because it's only like 3 or 4 minutes. And they could have done the maybe the sheep stealer thing, the wild dragon thing, as well in the last one, and had Ulf and the other bastard fly off to Old Town in the last one. And that would have meant we'd gotten more time with Ormond and Daeron in this one, you know? Because if that's so important, that felt really rushed. And if you think about it, so how many places were we in that episode? Okay. Think about it. We were in King's Landing, Tumbleton, the Vale, the Riverlands, and Rook's Rest. We were in like 5 different places, right? And just in King's Landing alone, we were in the Godswood, the Red Keep, the small council chamber, King Viserys' old room, Alicent's room, okay? And in King's Landing, Flea Bottom, the tavern, and the streets. So that's a lot of different places for us to be seeing. And in the Riverlands or in Harrenhal, the Vale, the Eyrie, the Cave, Tumbleton, yada, 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 yada. It just felt so packed. And for something that packed to have no payoff, it felt like such a letdown, because there was a moment, by the way, everyone who's watching, we're spoiling it, where like Aegon is about to kiss the feet of the scumbag guy. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and behind him, there's like an arch that leads to outside. And as his head was going down, they were cutting back to the arch. And I'm like, this is a perfect moment for Sunfire to be slowly walking in. You know what I mean? Dragging himself or something like that. To save his, rider from being humiliated. That would have been an amazing payoff. But like, they just showed not to have any payoff. And, we all know, because we saw the other dragon completely rotten. When we saw Melissa's dragon, it was all rotting and its skin was all gone. And Aegon's dragon was basically fresh. Like, it wasn't rotting at all. So like, we all kind of know that the thing's probably alive. Why else? It's like Chekhov's gun. It's like, why are you showing us this dragon if it's dead? You know what I mean? Anyway, that's nice.
So I had a logical thought on why Malice was more decayed, because they had made a point of decapitating it and parading it through King's Landing. So it was simply just more exposed to elements and insects and whatnot, whereas the other dragon was allowed to remain whole.
Yeah.
And regarding the pacing thing, I think that even compared to Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon has set up this expectation of this huge climax to come. And with Game of Thrones, it was always like pretty far in the distance. It was this grand 10 season long goal they were working toward, ideally. I know we only got 8, but with this one, we all know that the Civil War is coming, and this is already a written story. So I think with each episode that there isn't something like hugely climactic, it's unreasonably disappointing for people. But for me, the reason that the stakes in this universe mean what they do is because the drama is so damn good. And for me, this was just another good episode of drama across the board. There weren't any moments where I thought it was people were poorly characterized or it was uncaptivating. I think it just sets you up to care more about all of these characters when climactic things do happen again.
I think this one was kind of more psychological in some places. Like, even though they switched and there were short scenes in a lot of these different places, like you saw, like you mentioned, Aegon bending down to kiss the feet, like they were breaking him of his arrogance or whatever, and then with the young prince kind of forcing him to be who he wasn't by committing that act, and then with Rhaenyra, when she is going through the hall and she sees the ghost of who she thinks she sees, her son walking past, and kind of giving you a hint that she's got a little bit of this madness that's been running through this family, kind of just a little hint.
So many strange mistakes. It really there's so many strange mistakes, because if I had 2 bastards, and they're on the 2nd biggest dragon in the world and the 4th biggest dragon in the world, respectively, Hugh and Ulf, I wouldn't be treating them that badly. And it was so strange that like Ulf came up asking to it was self-serving and they're kind of criminals, but like, to do kind of good things for the common folk, because everyone knows in taverns, that's where gossip gets spread. And even though Ulf wasn't doing it because he's intelligent, it's still an intelligent thing to do to get into the tavern and, and make these guys, these storytellers really, on your side. Because she was all about sending food to King's Landing last season, and how she can just be so blasé about Hugh the Hammer's kind of wife in Tumbleton. And he's like, you promised me a house. I don't have a house. She's like, I'm busy. My wife is in Tumbleton. You know what I mean? He's it's like, oh my gosh, like, what's wrong with you? Like, those guys are dragons.
I thought it was really funny, what the direction I expected that to go with Ulf and the direction it ultimately went. I thought it was going to go right from him drinking in that tavern to him showing up shit-faced in Tumbleton on his dragon. Just like, fuck it, Dracarys.
Going at the wrong house.
Burned down the wrong place.
And instead, he just walks up to Rhaenyra, kind of fucking tipsy, like, "Hey, can you give me some shit? And can you give my homie some shit too, please?"
I knew he was going there to ask for money, but like then when he was really there to get his friends off the hook, I was like, okay, this guy's he's a bit of a lowlife, but he's not the worst guy in the world. So like, yeah, but I think that would be really funny. They don't have GPS. And unless you're really good at like geography and knowing where mountains and rivers are, following the river, it's kind of like, he could fly down to like where Duncan the Tall had that, like, where he had his adventure all the way in the bottom half of the map.
So very serious question. I assume the answer is probably yes. Is are dragon riding and alcoholism ever a problem?
Must not be, because they got that guy Ulf up there. It's so strange,
Dragon
because
the influence.
Yeah, I just see why so many book readers are a little bit upset about what's going on, because there's something happens in the future to something very, very important, and that something very, very important has literally had 30 seconds of screen time in 2.5 seasons, and it baffles my mind. Do you know what I mean? Which kind of scares me in a way, where I'm kind of like, are they just not going to do that? But like, that's because the Dance of Dragons, like, it's almost like a poetic thing. You know what I mean? It's very dramatic and tragic, and this thing is like one of the most dramatic and tragic, sad things ever. And they just haven't given any screen time to that thing. And I'm wondering what they're going to do with it. It's interesting.
Another thought that I've had while watching Avatar, and it's a little bit different when you're going from book to a TV show, but it's also a kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't situation in changing the source material. Because if you do change it, then all the loyalists are going to say, why are you changing it? Why are you changing it? And if they don't change it, then you end up with exactly what happened with this live action Moana, where it's literally just the same thing with the same songs, and there's just no real justification for it.
A little bit of Star Wars: A New Hope. Watching Star Wars: A New Hope after watching the prequels that came out, the decades after. Because there's a moment in Game of Thrones season 1 where Viserys Targaryen, Dany's sister, they're in Day's Dothraki, and he's getting bathed by one of the girls.
Yeah.
And she's asking him, tell me about the dragons. And I don't know if this is like a writer thing where they said, maybe he shouldn't know the names of the dragons because he's not really educated. Or maybe they were just being lazy and didn't bother researching the names of the dragons. Because 5 out of the 7 dragons he lists aren't dragons in the Game of Thrones universe. He's like, I remember watching that scene a few days ago, and I'm like, oh my God, they didn't know the names of the dragons in this. But like, remember in New Hope when Luke says to Obi-Wan Kenobi, you fought in the Clone Wars? And Obi-Wan Kenobi goes, yeah, I fought in the Clone Wars. And like Chewbacca then is right there. And Chewbacca fought in the Clone Wars and he was friends with Yoda and and knew the stormtroopers and everybody. So when you're watching A New Hope now, it's so weird watching Chewbacca just kind of sit there and not get involved in the conversation because he was a general in the Clone Wars. And it's really annoying and really stupid. And I really feel that's kind of what's going to happen with House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, where you're watching Game of Thrones and it's crazy. It's like Stannis Baratheon doesn't know anything about the Dance of the Dragons. Like he has to have his daughter explain it to him. You know, there's so many things now going back watching Game of Thrones where it's like impossible that these characters don't know, like Tywin Lannister not knowing the name of Meraxes, Vhagar, and Balerion when he's talking to Arya in Harrenhal in
Right.
season 2 or 3. Like the fact, like one of the most educated men in the world doesn't know about the Conqueror's dragons. Like going back watching it now makes me hate Dan and Dave even more, and it makes me really upset with the current thing. But I'm trying to be positive. I'm sorry.
Do you think it's like because he isn't part of that like they've dismissed the dragons at that point and they're like it's not really important anymore? I don't know.
I don't know because they had skulls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
they had skulls, and also Harrenhal was burnt by Balerion the Black Dread, and it's basically all its stone is melted. So it's like they have all the proof, that they need that this did kind of happen, and also the Maesters wrote, and it wasn't that long ago. It was only 100. Like the history of Westeros is like 10,000 years, and the Dance with the Dragons happens only like 190 years before the Game of Thrones TV show. So for them to know about like the First Men and the White Walkers and not have a deep history of, a Targaryen civil war is like just, I'm such a nerd. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's I guess while we're on the Game of Thrones topic, it's an appropriate time to segue into roasting Brandon for his ridiculous thoughts on The Long Night. For any
I mean,
to offer to offer some context here, Brandon and I had a lively spat the other week about whether or not Arya's arc worked and whether or not it was appropriate for her to kill the Night King. And I myself would argue that that is the single greatest shortcoming in all of Game of Thrones. It that's what I will say.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Can I tell you why, Brandon? Okay.
Okay, all right.
Because
I haven't read the books, so there's that.
I don't know Arya's ending either. This is just a fan theory, okay? Because the books, there's still 2 more books to come out. But like, do you remember when Arya's in Bravos learning how to be, a faceless man? That's basically where the book ends for her at the moment. So anything after that, I don't know. But the reason, like, I didn't like that was because Arya is obsessed with this one Targaryen from, like, 100 to 300 years ago that sailed west of Westeros and found an island, and she found 3 islands and she renamed them after whatever, some Targaryen whatchamacallits. And she went all the way around the world and all the way to like just to some crazy places in the east. And that's basically what should have happened for Arya. Having her sail off west is like a great way to end it. But like they're just kind of saying, "Oh, what's west of Westeros? We don't know." It's like, we do know. There's these islands that were found and there's monsters. So like, I don't know why they would give her that happy ending and not have that like undercurrent of like, oh my God, girl, you're heading off into like a really strange place right now. But she should not have been the one to kill the Night King at all. I told Brandon last week, I feel Cersei and Jaime should have died in season 7. And Cersei should have been all wrapped up in season 7. And all of season 8 should have been not at Winterfell. It should have been, a battle at Winterfell. But he's there for Bran. But they go back north to the land of always winter, to the Night King's castle, which is way off beyond. So like they kind of do a Death Star thing. And that's what I think is going to happen, is like, you can't kill him. You have to go to the source and destroy something there. To be honest with you, the reason it's also ridiculous is because the author of the books doesn't know how to kill the Night King either. So,
that seems troubling. Who should have killed the Night King?
I think Jon Snow is the only logical answer from a plot perspective, but I don't know. I really feel like Game of Thrones in its last 2 seasons went through this Marvelization process where it just became more and more like the MCU, DC, and I think The Long Night is the episode where that process just completed itself. It was just, oh my god! Everywhere you look, characters that are just surrounded by zombies, being totally ravaged, just buried, and on almost every single case, they get out, they're fine. The 10-year-old girl fucking takes on a giant. It's just straight out of the Marvel universe. And the cherry on the top of that cake is Arya jumping 40 damn meters over a wall of zombies. None of her training prepared her for any of that shit. And stabbing the most cosmic mystical force in the entire universe. This dude is like sent, or like, what's the word? Prophetic. Like, he can see the future. This guy doesn't just no.
And he's when Bran was having his visions into the past to see the Night King was able to see him. He's omnipresent.
Right.
Like, he's a god,
right.
Basically.
He knows everything. He's everywhere. Yeah, that guy doesn't just...
Well, in that case, there's nobody that could kill him.
I got stabbed by a 15-year-old girl.
But that's why I don't think... So, because there's so many theories that, like, these White Walkers and these generals, they're all like Starks and Targaryens from the past. So, like, I don't know. That's why it's so... He's created such a... I don't think he dies. I think you just can't kill him. I think a big sacrifice gets made, where maybe Bran is just allowed to die and then the memory goes, and maybe that's how it all starts again. People forget about the Long Night, but there's some stories of it, so we start the game again. But about the Winterfell thing with the crypts, I'm going to nerd you out, okay? The Starks don't bury bodies like full. They take the skin off the foil, and they have the bones, and they clean the bones, and they stack the bones. So the only way those zombies are getting out of the crypts is if they like put themselves back together, And
the smartest man in the whole show. Let's hide in the crypts during the zombie apocalypse. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Even if they were reanimated, like I said, they would have to put themselves back together. And it's just the whole thing. Like, people who aren't into Game of Thrones or the books or the TV shows or whatever you're into will probably be like, guys, it's not that deep. But it's kind of like going up to someone who plays World of Warcraft and kind of saying like, wow, it's not that good. And they would go crazy at you. Or going up to someone who's Lord of the Rings fan and saying like, the Lord of the Rings, what are you? Like, a moron? Like, they'd be insane. It's the same with Westeros. It's like...
That's a hilarious point. It's because I'm passionate about this universe that I care that people acknowledge how bad it ended.
I'm not going to do it. I mean... No, the ending, I didn't like, but the Long Night, I'm not that passionate about how that went. Like, Arya was all right doing it.
Brandon, can I ask you a question? All
right.
If you were in a war, okay, like just say you're Napoleon Bonaparte,
okay,
huge army of 100,000 men. You have a castle, and you have battlements, and you have trebuchets, the things that throw stuff. Is the first thing you do in this battle A, throw stuff at them from behind your walls? E, throw stuff at them from behind your walls? Or sorry, and enter out in fire. Or C, don't do the first two and send your cavalry, which is supposed to be used at the end of a battle? Like, oh my God.
And
I throw stuff.
Me too, thank you. I would throw stuff.
And still,
It
one of
feels
the most glaringly ridiculous things in the entire show is how we see these people get absolutely decimated. Daenerys's ground forces are gone. And then the next episode, they're not just gone, but like larger than they've ever been before. Like legions spanning like oh my
Yeah. King's Landing is now being Dothrak 2. You know, it's like a new base Dothrak. It's like they're just walking down the street. It's like, hang on, didn't all you guys get wiped out? And I remember watching the behind the scenes of the episode, and Dan and Dave are there kind of like, yeah, I don't even know what's left of the Dothraki. They're just walking around. Like, these guys are rapists, you know? Like, that's their whole thing. Their whole culture is that they destroy and they pillage, everything like that. And now they're just kind of like walking around having a Starbucks in King's Landing, you know? Like, they have no concept of like, bartering the way that you do. Like, they're like, I'm taking this. So once again, I know it's not that deep, but I think this is one of the reasons why it's so hard for George R. Martin to finish the book, is because he's adhering to the rules of the universe, you know? And the reason why Dan and Dave finished it so goddamn quickly and terribly is because they threw the rule book out the window.
Yeah, I think he created too grand a universe for it to ever be satisfactorily closed.
Yeah.
And it's a good problem to have.
His biggest mistake, I think, was introducing Essos. It's one of the best things about Game of Thrones, Essos and everything like that, the expanded universe. But if he had just finished the books around Westeros, and then he could have written some short novellas about Valyria, Pentos, all those places. But, you know, he did this in the 90s, so yeah, he probably didn't think it was going to go this far.
So when did he finish the last book? How long ago?
2011.
Oh, okay. And he's working on finishing?
He 3 years ago said he was 75% done, and then he was nearly done, and then he went back and he reread it, and I don't quote me on this, but he tore up like 20% of the book because he didn't like it. And I don't want to speak anymore because otherwise I might start making stuff up. But because, like, you know, your memory of like these old interviews, like, they can change. There was something he was doing where he got to like the end of, because he writes it each POV by itself. So he had finished many characters' POVs, and then he realized that as he was writing the next character's POV, he was halfway through, and he was like, oh no, I've brought them all this way here, but it's impossible for them to be here because that means this person would have X, Y, Z. Do you know what I mean? So he's created this web, so he has to keep going back and untangling it. And if you ever read his book, like, it's not difficult to read, but you'd want to pay attention.
It's too vast a puzzle for someone his age to really be parsing through. And I feel like there are like whole characters, parts of the world that he's invented that he's been able to forget about. Like, just knowing my own brain and how much it's deteriorated since my teens, I can only imagine being a mid-70-year-old man trying to grapple with all these hanging threads.
Well, how old did you say he was? 70?
70 something.
Oh, okay.
But like, imagine this, like, so if I'm like writing something that has like, say, 5 characters, I'll have to look at my notebook to like remember how to spell their names sometimes. But like, say if I get to like page like 150 of the story or whatever, like I will have to kind of go into my Google Docs and I will have to kind of like search the scene and everything like that to figure out where they are. He doesn't use Google Docs. He uses like a very, very old word processor, you know? And he has like 3 or 4 screens up, but like they're not like Macs or, you know, Dells or anything like that. They're like old school. They don't make them anymore like word processors that he writes on. It's like a black screen. That's all you see. And then he puts in like T and like a T comes up and that's all he sees. Right. So how he like is able to keep track of it, he must have like assistants, you know, other co-writers who are keeping track, making sure things make sense. I'm sure it's a whole situation.
Oh, he's probably just got a lot of sticky notes all over as well. I can only imagine, like, when I started watching.
Do you think they work? I'm serious, not joking. Do you
Yeah.
think sticky notes work? I have never revisited a sticky note.
Yeah, I know people who use them all the time, and a friend of mine works at a place, and they use sticky notes all the time. They don't put dates on them or anything. They just put them on the, you know, this needs replaced or whatever. They don't. He's a type A personality, and he can't stand it.
They're so
with you,
vague.
Caleb.
That's the problem. It's like they're so vague, as in it's like, you know, fix the.
Yeah.
And like, I stop writing, and I would then the next day I see it. I'm just there standing at it, like, oh God, what do I? You know, it's like Memento. Trying to figure out like what I was talking about.
I would have such a problem because when I started watching Game of Thrones early in it, I got so confused. There were so many different characters and names and everything. I could not keep track of everybody, and I'd be like, the one who the blonde girl that's with her brother at the time I didn't know who that she was going to be like the main character through the whole thing, but I couldn't remember her name. It's like there's so many different, and it wasn't like Bob and Steve and Joe or anything. It was Cersei and Daenerys, and there are all these names that I'd never heard of. So I could just imagine actually writing it, trying to keep track of all these different characters and different worlds and how they all mesh together. I would not be able to do it.
Yeah, I notice an obscene amount with each new revisit. And I'm with you,
Yeah.
Peter. I think the utility of sticky notes is a myth.
Right. Yeah. Another thing, and you mentioned Cersei there, is a really cool thing about the book is like you spend, I think, the first 3 books, and the third book is like a part 1, part 2, because it's so big. And then you get to is it the 4th book? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. You get to the 4th book, and all of a sudden, Jaime and Cersei, I think, well, definitely Cersei. Cersei is a POV character. And all of a sudden, like, you really like her. And a similar thing happens with Jaime, where it's like suddenly he becomes a POV character and you really like him. And you've just spent this whole like journey absolutely hating him. And I just think that's such an interesting thing to be able to do, to like see this one world through all these different eyes, but it's through one person's eyes. And that would just drive me crazy. I don't think I'd be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of talent to be sympathetic toward every character.
Even
and I think they did a good job of that.
Even knowing how much I turned around on certain characters throughout Game of Thrones, like Jaime Lannister is the classic example. He pushes a kid out the window in the first episode, and I think before season 3, I'm like, oh my God, I really like this guy. and with how it's interesting to see that same strategy at play so effectively in House of the Dragon. Like in season 1, I freaking hated Kristen Cole, and season 2 he starts to be a little more redeeming, and suddenly somehow he's become a character who I like. This new stoic, world weary side of him I like it.
I feel that way about Aegon.
Yeah, me too.
Because like it's kind of like, yeah, he's brat, and obviously we're like we have to take this like we're not in the real world. In the real world, I would hate this person, but in this world of Game of Thrones, it's just kind of like he just like he knows who he is, and he knows that like acting this way and being so proud will probably get him killed. But he has so much pride and doesn't forget who he is that he's basically telling these guys like to fuck off, and Lara Strong is there like, it's like, Gregor, shut up, and he's like, no, I would shut up. Where's my food? And he goes up and he gives out to him for not having food. I really do actually like that a lot. The way that he only bends the knee once, like, it's like the last minute he has a dagger in his throat. I like
And
it.
he's
I
so
like it.
young, though. You have to account for how he was raised, and it's like it's not his fault in some ways that he's like this. I don't know how old he is now in the series, but he's not that old, and I think he still has that.
Like 17, 18, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he's still an adolescent.
Yeah, in the book, he's like 13 or 14. I don't know.
I think even this plot in this recent episode with Aegon and Larys, that was kind of made for an eventful episode in itself. I really enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, exactly. They if you ask me which would I have rather had, a Rhaenyra episode or an Aegon slowly building himself back up and finding his dragon, then because remember, Aegon didn't want king. His mom made him do it. Like, yes, he's a scumbag and everything like that, but as far everyone seems to be a scumbag in Game of Thrones, but like that would be so been like a real fucked up version of like the Lord of the Rings, like Frodo and what's that guy's name, Samwise Gamgee. Lara Strong and Aegon, like they're do. Where's my fucking dragon? You know what I mean? I would have really loved that episode. What did you think of Rhaena and Sheep Stealer? That's the last thing I'll say because I gotta run soon.
I don't know if I have any particularly interesting commentary on that. It was a good scene. I guess that Daemon's actions there didn't totally surprise me. How he tried to play that in his own favor.
Well, he's trying to protect his own daughter, and
and also
I don't know.
And well, maybe he wasn't trying to curry favor. Maybe it was more just about protecting his daughter.
That's kind of how I felt about it.
I guess he doesn't care about actually impressing Rhaenyra. He could probably care less.
Yeah, well, I mean
right.
He has seen the vision and everything, and he's committed to making sure she's on the throne. So I guess I don't know.
It's see, the fact is, like, neither of you have read the books, and neither of you know what happens with the Sheep Stealer dragon in the books, which makes me even angrier because they changed it from the books from someone else to be Rhaena, and the change they've made underwhelms you. You know what I mean? You're just like, and it's like, why would you make, if you're going to make such a big book change, at least, give it, because that's a big thing for her to have done, to have killed Jace. Like,
Episode 1 was crazy. Episode 1 was crazy. That was awesome.
Like, that was amazing.
So I wasn't underwhelmed by that.
But like this is what I was hoping would happen, because I was actually hoping that, okay, they're changing it so much from the books that when I saw Caraxes going up towards the cave, Daemon's red dragon, I was like, oh, this is what I thought was going to happen. Caraxes is going to kill Sheep Stealer, and in the process, kill Rhaena. And then when Daemon jumps down to inspect the body of the beast, he's going to see his daughter's body, and it's going to break him. You know what I mean? And plus, Caraxes got him some injuries, so that now Caraxes is like less of a weapon for future fights coming forward. I'm like, this is genius, Ryan Condal, HBO. This is genius. And it's just kind of like, Raina, you killed the Jace. Fly away. And I'm like, that's it? Like, that's all you're doing? Like, it's so lame. It's limp.
I thought it was kind of a good idea. I mean, I heard you talk about last week. I listened to part of it, or maybe the week before, that they gave the dragon to her instead of. I guess it was supposed to be just a hill girl or whatever, or a hill person that had the dragon. But I mean, it does add quite a complication to have it as Daemon's daughter. I think that kind of puts a big
But the
twist on it.
complication would have still existed if he had. Because remember in episode 1, Jace was saying, like, kill the rider, Vermax, kill the rider. So it's obviously a tactic for dragon riders to come down from the back and go for the rider. So, like,
Knew it was going to happen eventually.
sorry, I got vertigo. So, like, if Daemon had found Thief Stealer, he would have swooped down. And so there's still, because then Daemon would have had to say, do I tell the truth or do I lie about it? So that kind of conflict could have still been there, you know? And I just thought it was a huge cop out.
From afar, I kind of feel like they're changing it just enough to leave people who've actually read the books satisfied that they're getting enough, but also to have them be completely unsure where things are going next. Like, I, as someone who hasn't read the books, obviously have no idea, but I think that it's nice that you also don't know and had the ability to wonder, ooh, is Caraxes about to kill this dragon?
I love that's what I love about it. But when that change is really it's like I said, if you're going to change it, it better be good. Yeah. And the changes haven't been good enough. For example, the person who has Sheep Stealer in the book is a girl, a bastard called Nettles. And Daemon does go off to the Vale to and Nettles is part of the people who, try to get the dragons, the bastards, with Ulf and Hugh the Hammer. She's part of that whole thing. And she gets Sheep Stealer by going up to him over the course of like weeks and months, feeding him sheep. Okay. And she gets him. Daemon falls in love with her and has an affair with her. Okay. And it's rude that she has children with him. And Daemon completely like poo-poos Rhaenyra because he just thinks she's like, whatever. He doesn't really care about her. Like, it's a big thing because Rhaenyra says either she wants to kill Nettles because she doesn't trust her because she's jealous of Daemon. Like, there's this whole other thing going on there, and the relationship with Nettles leads to a huge thing that happens in the book. The thing that I'm angry about that they have moved back because it's not meant to be in season 4. It should be in the middle of, like, we should have seen it today, this huge thing. Okay. And I just can't, I understand now why George R. R. Martin has like stepped away from the project, because when he first said that last year, I was like, oh, come on, man, it can't be that bad. Like, it's not that deep, bro. Like, don't be all mad. And now, like, we're halfway through season 3 and I'm losing my mind. Like, this is such dog shit. But it's great TV.
It's funny how comparable this is to. I hate to keep bringing the conversation back to something that you guys haven't seen, but it's exactly the same story where the original minds behind the Nickelodeon Avatar show were involved with the Netflix one, but eventually parted ways because they didn't like the direction that it's going. And the changes that they make aren't bad in themselves. They're like it would have been possible for them to carry them out well. But the ultimate execution is one that it's like, no, I don't think that justified changing the source material so completely.
Can I just say one last thing before I go? There's a guy on the internet. Don't watch it because there's going to be lots of spoilers. I won't say his name. I'll tell you after you finish season. I'll tell you the 3-5 years when this whole thing is over, because there's lots of spoilers. But there's this guy who does Game of Thrones videos. And back in the day, he would do like full on 1 hour, like, family tree. So like if there was an episode of Game of Thrones, he'd do a huge deep dive into it. Mm. After season 2 of House of the Dragon, he stopped doing that. Like, this is his money, his bread and butter. He makes these videos. And he literally just kind of said, like, they've gone so far, because his whole thing was linking the TV show to the books. He's like, they've gone so far from it that, like, there's no need for me. And I'm like, oh, this, like, really beautiful, awesome creator who does these deep dives doesn't feel like there's a connection anymore, and the author doesn't feel that. I'm like, why do I feel that there still is? I'm hoping there is, but it's getting further and further apart.
But you're
Guys,
still hanging on.
I'm still hanging on. I'm a big nerd. I gotta go. It's been great to see you. Will I log off? By the way, everyone, I moved house, so that's why I'm like, a little bit frazzled.
Well, nice talking to you guys as always, and thank you everyone for joining. It's always fun doing these weekly talks.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me this time.
Yep, thank you for joining, man.
It's fine. The fuck is this?
Bye. Have a good one, guys.
Hang on, wait. Let me get my